Good evening, everyone, and welcome to those watching online and to those in the gallery. Welcome to tonight's ordinary meeting of Council, the 10th of September 2025, and I declare this meeting open at 6:01. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and their descendants. The City's election caretaker provision policy requires candidates of relevant elections to identify themselves as an election candidate prior to asking a question or making a statement at a council meeting. The following councillors are candidates: Councillor Catalano, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Singh, and Councillor Bowman and Councillor Howlett. This statement is taken to apply to the entirety of the meeting, and the above councillors are not required to identify the candidacy each time they address the meeting. These provisions also apply to candidates in the gallery as well. The terms and conditions of entry to this meeting are posted on the door as you enter. Please ensure that you've read them prior to attending this meeting and abide by them. Tonight's attendance and apologies. We have all council members in attendance except for Councillor Ringo and Councillor Prodovnik. We have Councillor Singh attending electronically. Councillor Singh, can you hear us? Thank you. And we have a leave of absence for Councillor Ringo and Councillor Prodovnik. Now, disclosure of financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. We've not received any declarations as yet. My apologies, we have one now. There we go, thank you. So I have a disclosure of interest which is for tonight's meeting from Councillor Henderson, and it's item 14.3.1, which is the amendment number 4 to the Dayton LSP4, and it is, the reason is it's an impartiality. In 2024, Councillor Henderson wrote to the CEO to complain about water issues at his property from the existing water management system. As the proposal is further away, there is no data to show if this proposal will, further impact local water issues. So thank you very much. I'll just hand that one back. And Councillor Bowman has one that he'll hand up as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just the same that I did at the CEO Performance Review panel. As some may know, I'm also a CEO of local government, so I'll fill it in again.
Thank you very much. And that was on item...
That's 16.1 and it's impartiality.
Impartiality. Thank you very much. If you could just hand that up and we will read that one out. Are there any other councillors that are needing to submit a declaration of interest? No, if there is, just please pass that up to the acting CEO. We move to part 5, public question time. Questions and answers are recorded in the minutes of the meeting and they may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations of 1996. All questions received for this meeting have been answered and responded to and have been included in this schedule. All questions will be published in the minutes of this meeting. 5.1, answers to questions which were taken on notice. We had 2 questions from Mr Dixon Lowe, 1 question from Mr Gavin Troy, 5 questions from Ms Jan Zek and 3 questions from Mr Humphrey Bogart, and these have been answered and are in the addendum attached in this agenda. 5.2, questions relating to the reports contained in the agenda. 5.2.1, questions of which due notice has been given. There are nil. 5.2.2, questions without due notice for items in the agenda only. And they have 3 minutes. So we have had Jan Zek registered to ask questions in relation to item 14.3.1, proposed amendment to number 4 to the Dayton Local Structure Plan, number 4. SP 17-31E. Ms Jan Zek, if you would like to come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes to ask up to 5 questions.
Thank you. I have only this afternoon received answers to questions I asked a month ago, and I refer to answers 1 and 2 in the agenda addendum. It's page 5 of the, the addenda that was handed out. And I think that should be on your computers at this stage. So the question I have is, has a typo been made in the answer that quotes Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2025 and should it be 2015? Now, Leon has just confirmed that it should be 2015. And in that case, clause 27 refers to incorporation of environmental conditions. I couldn't find any reference to planning and development local planning schemes regulation 2025 or the clause referenced. So what legislation and provision is actually being referred to?
Thank you, Mr van der Linde.
Madam Mayor, if I may refer that to Mr. Russell, please.
Thank you.
Clause 27 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015. What we will do, in case obviously, as Ms Eck has correctly pointed out, there's a typo in 2025, we will shortly affirm that there isn't a typo in the relevant clause. So, can I just take that for a second? You bear with me. Okay. So it is in fact clause 27, 1, effect of a structure plan. So other than the typo in relation to the reference to the regulations being 2025, the clause is correct. It is clause 27 of Schedule 2, Part 4 of the Planning and Development (Local Planning Schemes) Regulations 2015. So we apologise for the error in terms of any confusion in members of the public following the answer.
Thank you. Did you have a second question?
Yes, I do. If, as stated, changes that have occurred to the Golden Vines Harefield estate are permissible under clause 27 of the Planning and Development Regulations 2015 and a urban water management plan associated with the subdivision plan, why did the proponent seek to have these changes approved by including them in an amendment to a development on an adjoining lot?
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. That would require speculation on my part, and the proponents aren't here this evening to explain why it is they thought it was appropriate, not because it was required purely for administrative purposes. But as I've remarked previously in this chamber, that has led to some understandable confusion, which has been somewhat misleading. But I can't speak for them as to the rationale for why they put it in there. That's what I understand was their intent.
Thank you. Do you have a third question?
Yes. DPLH advice is that an amendment to a structure plan is generally required when the change is not considered minor. DPLH advice also states that changes to land use, density and public open space provisions are not considered minor. So putting these two together, we can say that the changes to land use, density and public open space provisions would generally require an amendment. The response to my question in July about modifications to Dayton LSP4 that have occurred since Amendment number 3 and comprise changes to density, land use and provisions of public open space was, they are not significant modifications and are not modifications to the structure plan. This response was misleading and inaccurate as modifications to density, land use and provisions of public open space are specifically recognised as significant components of a structure plan. They are not considered minor. I suspect that the response given in the agenda addendum that clause 27 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regulation 2015, now it's been amended, which states a decision maker for an application for development approval or subdivision approval in an area that is covered by a structure plan that has been approved by the Commission is to have due regard to, but is not bound by, the structure plan when deciding the application. That if this is accurate, it seems that it's a very liberal interpretation of the regulations and it does not apply to the changes of density, change of land use and the provision of public open space. So I would like to ask, on what planning instrument and provisions did the City of Swan planning staff base their decision when the determination was made that the Golden Vines Harefield estate did not require a structure plan amendment?
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I fear I'm repeating much of what I've mentioned in previous council meetings. Nevertheless, okay, the simple fact is this. The configurations of the land on the Golden Vines estate have been approved through subdivision. So it is a moot point and a hypothetical to draw inferences that on the advice of what the Commission says generally doesn't constitute a minor amendment, that somehow what has occurred through subdivision is incorrect. The fact remains that the subdivision configurations on Golden Vines, to the extent that they departed from anything depicted in the structure plan, have been approved through the subdivision process under the powers conferred in Regulation 27 of the deemed provisions. It is a moot point to retrospectively suggest that the Commission hasn't applied its own guidance notes with respect to what constitutes a minor variation to a structure plan. It has happened, Madam Mayor, and it is a after-the-fact opinion on whether or not it's minor or not.
Thank you. Do you have a fourth question?
I do. The Manager of Statutory Planning and the Executive Director Operations both asserted at the Agenda Forum meeting that issues with the drainage works in the northeast sector of the LSP4 have now been rectified and practical completion has been issued. This is not true. Pumps have been in use continuously before, during and after these statements were made. There is now not only a serious issue with a failed system which has been signed off, there is also the overwhelming impact of the failed drainage on surrounding properties, and both the Manager of Statutory Planning and the Executive Director of Operations have misled the public and the Council as to its status. Can you tell me why the pumps are still operating?
Thank you. Mr Coaten, if you're able to advise, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. The answer to the question, and apologies if it wasn't clear, but there was the modifications that Mr Russell and myself were discussing were in relation to the bubble ups in the basins, the modification work that needed to still occur. My recollection of the meeting, I was asked if to confirm that there were no problems with the pipe across the gas pipeline, and I said that I wouldn't do that, but there were no insurmountable problems. So there is some pumps that still do operate. The pipe does grade downwards, it doesn't go uphill. There are some issues in relation to there's a pit in the system that needs to build up water level to a certain amount to create pressure for it to flow. As outlined in the report, and I believe it was Mr Hanson who mentioned it last week, if the structure plan amendment is approved, Citrus Avenue will be raised, which will also address that problem. So that would enable the pressure head to flow more freely. So apologies if that was unclear.
And you have a final question?
Well, I don't think that it was unclear. I think it was very clear, and that the information that you gave us was that it had actually been rectified. I do have a final question. The suggestion last meeting, the Agenda Forum meeting, when the proponent for the Lot 24 suggested that they were going to raise Citrus Avenue by 500 mil, has the city considered what that is going to do to the properties that are on the southern side of Citrus Avenue, and also the properties that have already been constructed in, I think it's Longford or Cheshire Way, that are very low lying, because I suspect that that is going to flood. So the question is, has the city considered what the implications are for the suggestion of raising Citrus Avenue by 500 mil?
Mr Coaten.
The detailed design hasn't been done for it. Staff have assessed the proposal with the developer's consultant, and it is the staff's understanding that it can function effectively.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those questions this evening. I'll ask, is anyone in the gallery that is not registered wishing to ask a question relating to items in the agenda? No? Thank you. We move to 5.3, other questions to items not contained in the agenda. 5.3.1, these are questions of which due notice has been given. We have Mr Gavin Troy had 4 questions and Ms Janzek had 5 questions. These have been answered and they will also form part of the minutes. 5.3.2, we had questions without due notice. We have had questions from Mr Humphrey Bogart and Mr Jeffrey Knights, and they have also been answered and will form part of the minutes. Now we have Ms Smutta Turner, an election candidate, and Jeffrey Knights have both registered to ask questions. Ms Turner, if you could please come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes to ask up to 5 questions.
Thank you very much. I'll try and keep it short. We have some areas where subdivision has occurred and it left small slither of lots that are smaller than the zoning of the area. So how would one go to then build on a plot that is smaller than the minimum plot of the zone? And if you can please use example of lot 9009 of Polonaise Drive in Brigadoon, that has caused a lot of people quite a bit of stress. And I will also ask that in the minutes if we can get the legislation added just for our own knowledge.
Mr Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a topical issue of the moment. The question relates to a piece of land in Brigadoon, and it is a historical legacy issue, and this has been explained at length to various members of the community, but for the benefit of the question asked here in the council, I'll reiterate much of what has been put. Lot 9009 is a freehold piece of land owned by the current owners of the balance of the Brigadoon estate, Corrib Developments Proprietary Limited. Recently, understandably, adjoining residents were shocked to find that the site was being worked for the construction of a single dwelling that had been approved through an application made to the city. The situation with that is that this was a piece of land that was not fenced and therefore probably presented to members of the public, including the adjoining neighbour, as if it was part of the road reserve. But not unfortunately, but in fact, it has never been part of the road reserve. It has existed from the days of the now defunct Bond Corporation in the mid-1980s as what was a portion of a balance of the title that Bond Corporation had not developed. And when Bond Corporation sold it on to an interim owner, Maymerge Proprietary Limited, who subsequently sold it to Peat Limited, and it was Peat Limited that took the balance of the northern portion of the estate, the residual land, and developed what we now know as the Avon Ridge estate. Now, through that process, this particular parcel of land was attached as balance of title to that broader parcel. What has subsequently happened is that as that broader parcel has been subdivided down and the parent's lot has shrunk and shrunk, we ended up left with a residual parcel that became a lot of itself called Lot 9009. And that is some 1,700 square metres, okay? So it is true that that lot is below the what would ordinarily be the minimum lot sizes in our local planning scheme. But by virtue of the legacy of its state of existence as a balanced lot, it preceded these controls. And in any event, it's a matter of planning law in the Planning and Development Act that the West Australian Planning Commission, who has discretion to approve or not approve subdivision, is not fettered by the controls of a local planning scheme and may, under a series of circumstances, permit variations to that scheme at the time of subdivision. It is understandable how that's come as a shock to the community, not least the neighbours, but it is a legacy issue dating back in Genesis from the mid-1980s, and Madam Mayor, that's a long time ago now, as we know. And the owners lawfully applied, made a planning application for a single house, and the single house meets the relevant requirements and has been approved. And that's where we sit just this week with the construction works on that land.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that will help for a lot of people watching regarding that issue, and thank you for that summary. The second question?
It's more a clarification of that item. So if I have a big lot that I have subdivided and I'm left with a few slithers, does the zoning that applies to all the subdivision does not apply to that little slither? So by subdividing it, it's not for the whole property, the zoning is only for the new property?
Mr. Russell, if you're able to
Well,
assist.
I think that the relevant explanation to that in the context of this example is that the parcel that sits and is now called Lot 9009 was in its shape, configured in the 1980s, and that preceded the current controls in Scheme 17 that were introduced by amendment in 2013. So that lot, in its shape, notwithstanding it was a balance of title to a larger portion, was already there in situ before these controls came into place. But going back to what I said, controls in a local planning scheme do not provide an absolute prohibition to the Commission's exercise of discretion in subdivision of land. That's the way the planning system works in Western Australia, and it's in the Act.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Third question?
No, I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smarter. Sorry, Ms. Turner and Mr. Knights, if you'd like to come to the podium too, you also have 3 minutes to ask up to 5 questions. Just pop that speaker on there. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you for the response. The answers I received to my questions have actually not been answered in full. It's been deflected. I actually asked what type of contract that has not been answered. I've also asked the responsibilities of the obligations, a yes or no answer, and they gave not a clear answer on that. The damage to the letterbox is being done by City of Swan's contractor, not by the property owner. I don't have a contract with the people who actually did the damage. It's the City of Swan.
I just need you to pop that into a question though, if you can, please.
Okay.
And then I can put that to staff and see if we
Sure.
can get your response.
How does the city sees the? What is the difference of the main? What's the difference of a main builder contractor and council and their role in managing this problem? Whereas a main contractor would be responsible for the damage to the property on the main road, why would there not be any difference with the City of Swan?
I'll ask Mr. Travascus if he's able to respond, please.
Through the chair, I guess it's not entirely clear, that question, but I guess in the answers in this matter with regards to the letterbox, so it was investigated by staff, the damage. It was referred to our insurer. That investigation, it was found that the contractor was at fault. So the party that did cause the damage has admitted fault. They've advised the city that they've tried to contact the owner. I think there was some confusion in the beginning as they contacted the tenant, but we have been advised that they've contacted the owner and they've accepted liability for that. So as the city's role on the matter is considered, we've done all we can. So I'm not sure if that answers the question or not.
Did you have a
No, it
second
doesn't
question?
answer the question. The question was, what is the difference between a main contractor and its responsibilities on its neighbouring area than is with the City of Swan? I used to be a main contractor myself, and any damage that my contractors used to do, I would actually be responsible to actually manage that factor, regardless if it's my fault or not. It was
Thank
more.
you. I'll just let Mr. Travascus
Sure.
answer that one.
Yeah, through the chair. So I'll have to take that on notice so I can consider it with the team.
Okay, thank you. A third question?
If the courts find in my favour with the review on its, would the council review its procedures on managing these sorts of processes?
That'd be for you, for Mr. Travascus.
Through the chair, yeah, it's a hypothetical question, so we'd not have
No, it's
to
a simple
deal
yes
with
or
it
no,
at the
I mean-
time. But we always, always review our processes and procedures and look to improve if it's deemed there has been an error made.
Thank you. Did you have a fourth question?
Yes. Why does the council feel it's fit for the property owner to do the management of the, so why does the council feel it's in the requirement for the property owner to chase the contractor when it was the council's responsibility to engage the contractor in the first place?
If you're able to respond.
Through the chair, so as discussed, the party that caused the damage have admitted liability, and
Not answering the question.
so
I'm just going to let Mr. Vasquez respond, please.
so they've contacted the owner to rectify the issue and advise the city that they did try and do that.
Thank you. And did you have a final question?
So I still don't understand that answer there. It wasn't very clear.
You could just, if you could reiterate that.
I
answer,
am the
please.
owner, so
Yep.
you're telling me stuff which I already know. So I've asked the question why is it the owner's responsibility to chase something which had no involvement at all to
Okay.
do City of Swan's work?
I'll ask the CEO to respond, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. As Executive Director Mr. Travascus has stated, the contractor in this case has assumed liability for the issue. It is on the contractor to follow up with the resident to resolve the issue. It's not, as you say, for you to do chasing. The contractor should be doing that. I'm sure we can step into a conversation with Contraflow on the back end.
Look, I appreciate there are certain individuals that have made an effort within council, and I don't want to say anything, but I feel that the administration itself and the management has not stepped forward and taken their roles responsibly enough. And
Thank
I
you
feel-
very much for that feedback. But because this is actually a question time, I know
fair enough.
we are also on a time limit.
Fair enough.
So we've got one more question.
No, that's right. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming in
Thank you,
and for your
Tony.
questions, Mr. Knights. We'll now move to asking if there's anyone in the gallery that is not registered wishing to ask a question relating to items not in the agenda. No? Thank you very much. Then move on to part 6, which is public statement time, and this is where you have 2 minutes. Registration for public statement time at council meetings was required by 10 a.m. this morning on Wednesday the 10th of September 2025. Public statements are for general matters of the city and not for items on the agenda. Mr. Harry Gratt has registered. Mr. Gratt, if you'd like to come to the podium, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll bang on again about flooding and groundwater. You need to act now on flooding and groundwater caused by the North East Urban Growth Corridor urban development before it's too late to make changes. This problem is going to haunt you all the way to Bullsbrook. It's going to keep repeating itself. It's currently Caversham, Dayton, Brabham and Ellenbrook, and it'll just keep going. So, yeah, you must be aware that urban creates additional water. Now, this is what we call new water, and if you don't understand new water, then it has to be disposed of. Ask somebody, ask me. So many landowners are now affected along the east side of the North East Urban Growth Corridor, and some places, including in the urban zone. For example, Henley Brook Primary School Oval has got a moat around half of it, and it's been there for months, and it'll take months to go. Yesterday, we had some photographs in from Henley Brook. There's 4 or 5 properties in a row that are badly flooded. They're copping extra water from Morgan Fields. One place has 300 millimetres of water flowing through their property and through their shed. So the rising groundwater is creating flooding both above and below ground through the area. Our story at West Swan, I notified the City of Swan, or we did, in 2022 with some data that was quite convincing about rising groundwater. We're told there was not a problem, go away. 2023, we had more data. It was better data again, still the same problem. At Tone, not a problem, don't believe you, go away. So I sent it to DWER, and the bunny there rang the City of Swan, had a chat to them, and was silly enough to tell me that, and then I got the same fluffy answer, there's not a problem, go away. 2024, more data to the City of Swan. I'm getting a bit sick of it by now, I'm getting cranky. City of Swan then accepted there is an issue that needs investigation. Well, that's great. So now it's 2025, I'm in my 4th year of being flooded. Nothing's been done. Talk of an investigation, I don't know of any investigation. Am I out of time? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so what you need to do, you need to plan your drainage from the river back to the urban, not the other way around. You need to reassess all developments where you can, and you need to scrutinise your drainage plans that are submitted, not just tick them off. They need scrutinising and correcting. And what you don't have and must have is a drainage plan, a main drainage master plan, and you don't have it. You've got developers doing little bits and pieces, and they all connect up, but it doesn't work. So you must have a master plan.
Thank
Now, the
you
responsibility
very much,
is
Mr.
City of
Gratt.
Swan.
That's gone into an extra minute over, so we're at 3 minutes, so. Yep, can we extend? Yep. Seconder, thank you. This is Deputy Mayor. Is anyone against? So the time is for an extra minute. Was it Councillor Catalano? For 1 minute extension?
Another 1 minute. 1 minute's all we need.
Oh, we need to actually designate a time, so 1 minute, thank you.
Okay. So the responsibility is the City of Swan. You've approved the plans and you own most of the drainage system. But the buck's been passed to you by DWER and DPLH. I believe the bulk of the problem is poor policy by DWER, Department of Water. Unfortunately, you wear it. So I've actually got trying to get an appointment with the Minister to tell him exactly that. His policies are crap. And if you follow them, you can see what we get. Unfortunately, you're responsible. And in the first instance, I've got to go, you. Unfortunately, I don't want to do that, but we're going to have to. Our losses are too high. Someone needs to take on DWER and get the policies changed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in for your public statement time. Part 7 is petitions. We had a petition containing approximately 271 signatures that was presented at the agenda forum by Mr. Greg Ross, and that was relating to a fenced off-leash dog run at Nathan Square Park. The petition will be dealt with in accordance with the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2023 under section 4.42E. E referred to the CEO for consideration and response. Could I please have a mover? So the Deputy Mayor. And a seconder was Councillor Bowman, thank you. And I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? We had Councillor Catalano. Sorry, it was unanimous. Thank you very much. Oh, and Councillor Singh, sorry? Was that no? Yes, Councillor Singh had his hand up. Excuse me, Councillor Henderson, can I ask again, those in favour? Those in favour? It is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we move to part 8, which is deputations. All deputations for items on the agenda were heard at the agenda forum held on the 3rd of September 2025. I have got a really special announcement tonight. I would really like to acknowledge that this is Mr. Jim Coaten, our Executive Director of Operations, last City of Swan Council meeting. This is such a special moment for us, Mr. Coaten, because after nearly 25 years at Swan, Mr. Coaten is now heading to the City of Melville as their new Executive Director of Environment and Infrastructure. Mr. Coaten started at the City of Swan in August 1999 as the Group Manager for Operations and left in August 2005 to work at the town of Kwinana as Director. Sorry, I'm just in the middle of an announcement here. As Director of Operations. He soon returned to Swan in June 2007 as the Executive Manager and now the Director of Operations. Mr. Coaten is greatly respected at Swan and in the engineering public works industry as well. Among the countless successful projects that Mr. Coaten has overseen, the completion of the city's capital works projects, delivery of asset maintenance and waste management services absolutely stand out as a huge reward and what you've done for the City of Swan. Thank you. His graduate program is an absolute and very well-known legacy here at Swan, and it has uplifted the quality of local government professionals across Western Australia and beyond. I've been to quite a few IPWA events and taken home some amazing trophies and some great graduates as well. Thank you. The former Swan graduates have moved on to about 16 other local governments in the area. and 2 graduates went directly into director roles and others are now executive managers or engineers. So you leave a huge hole, but hopefully our program will continue with the high standard that you've left us. Mr. Coaten has been an absolute wonderful leader, collaborator and valuable member of the Swan team. So on behalf of the City of Swan and staff, council members and the community, thank you very, very much for all the incredible work you've done over these years. You're going to be very sorely missed. We are very sad to see you go, and we are going to try and wish you the best, but obviously we would like to keep you here if we could, and I think we could all join in on a big round of applause, Mr. Coaten. I know Mr. Coaten doesn't particularly like public acknowledgement, maybe necessarily, but it was definitely more worth what we could give you tonight. But thank you so much. Part 10 is leave of absence. I'll ask, is there any other council members requesting a leave of absence? If there is, if you could please hand up your forms tonight. I did have a disclosure of interest that was passed up from Councillor Bowman from earlier. It was 16.1, was an impartiality, and that is because he is a local CEO. There's also a CEO at the... I can't quite read that. Sorry, Councillor Bowman. If you'd like to read out your reasoning.
It was because I'm a CEO and the same consultant is used.
Being used to do the same performance review. Thank you very much. I'll hand that one over to the Acting CEO. Now, Part 11, confirmation of minutes. 11.1, confirmation of minutes of the special meeting of council held on the 16th of July 2025, which was not included for confirmation in the council's run sheet at the August OCM. 11.2, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting of council, which was held on the 13th of August 2025. 11.3, confirmation of minutes of the special meeting of council held on the 27th of August 2025. Can I please ask for a mover? Thank you, Councillor Miles. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Zanino. Is anyone against? That's carried. And we move to Part 12, business left over from the previous meeting, if adjourned, which there was none. Move on to Part 13, adoption of those recommendations contained items not withdrawn. For the benefit of community members and those watching the meeting, the council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means that the agenda items where council supports the officer recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items and the officer's recommendation is therefore the decision of council. The following items have not been withdrawn for individual consideration and will be dealt with via the en bloc method. And therefore, the officer recommendation will be the decision of council. And those items are 14.1.1, which is the policy review, temporary employment of appointment of acting CEO. 14.1.2, the review of committees of council and advisory groups. 14.5.1, which is the financial management report for the period ending 31st of July 2025. 14.5.2, list of accounts paid July 2025. And 14.5.3, which is the change in basis of valuation. And I need to ask for a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Miles. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Jones. And is there anyone against? No, that's carried. So we move to the important part tonight, which is 14, reports withdrawn for debate or absolute majority vote required. So the following reports have been withdrawn for debate or have an absolute majority vote in accordance with the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2023 and will be dealt with by council individually. So the first item we have is 14.3.1, and this is the proposed amendment to number 4 to the Dayton Local Structure Plan, number 4, SP 1731E. Proposed motion by Councillor Catalano. Now just noting that a councillor to foreshadow the officer's recommendation should this alternate motion not be passed. Councillor Catalano, if you'd like to read out your alternate motion.
Thank you. Sorry, just lost it. Okay. That Council resolves to 1. Recommend to the Western Australian Planning Commission that it not approve proposed amendment number 4 to the Dayton Local Structure Plan number 4. 2. Advise the Western Australian Planning Commission, the applicant, landowner and submitters of Council's resolution accordingly. Reasons for the motion. The amendment, or this amendment, A, reduces public open space in the subdivision by 78% and relies on the Dayton District open space, which has only around 30% of its area available for trees and passive recreation, with the remaining 70% for parking, buildings and sporting fields. B, relies on drainage infrastructure in the adjacent Golden Vines subdivision that was not approved through a structure plan modification process, and there are many complaints that this drainage infrastructure is already inadequate and or incompetent and will add to the existing unresolved flooding issues in the Dayton area. C, infilling of any portion of this amendment area will likely increase flooding in adjacent areas. D, proposes the original plans for a nutrient stripping drainage swale, which is best practice in accordance with the Dayton Local Water Management Strategy, be replaced with outdated 20th century compensation basin with all of the associated health problems of mosquitoes, odour, water stagnation and nutrient overload into the waterways of the Swan River.
Thank you very much, Councillor Catalano. I'll ask, is anyone against? Oh, sorry, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Is anyone against? No. It's carried. Well, sorry, I am actually against, so thank you. Sorry? Yep, so those in favour?
Just a question. Don't you need to ask if somebody wishes to speak to the motion first?
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I may as well. Thank you. Okay, page 34 of the agenda report relating to this amendment reads, the basin and drainage infrastructure has been constructed and or approved to the east of the subject site. This infrastructure is designed to take on the drainage function of this park as well as service the drainage needs of those separate subdivision approvals. This amendment is a reduction in public open space and a change in drainage infrastructure to squeeze in more housing. It's proposed that the drainage infrastructure on this subdivision, which is Basin A, is constructed as a compensation basin with deep, steep sides rather than as a swale with gentle slope. This water in this basin is supposedly to be piped into the easterly adjacent Golden Vine subdivision basins B, C and D that we've heard about but know so little about because those basins were ticked off without the due modification. We are being asked to recommend this amendment when none of us are any wiser as to whether the reduction in the size of Basin A to a compensation basin of only 14% of the area of the original swale will work properly to drain stormwater or strip the stormwater of nutrients in accordance with the best practice. Decisions are not supposed to be made without knowing all the facts. So many questions and so few answers. Will the drainage infrastructure work with the proposed increased half-metre infill over part or whole of the site? We only heard about that last week at the Agenda Forum. Will the infill increase, supposedly over Citrus Avenue, increase flooding downhill onto other properties? Who knows? Will the drainage infrastructure have capacity to deal with the extra stormwater from more houses and hard surfaces? I don't know. How will the water flow back off the subdivision and from Blundell Street into a proposed drain east along Harrow Street into a Basin B, again, as we only heard about at the last Agenda Forum? I don't know. We don't know how or if the drainage infrastructure in the adjacent basins currently is competent or will work to incorporate these amendments, as we know very little about the design of the drainage infrastructure because it didn't go through the modification process. I'm reminded of aggrieved landowners in Herne Hill who, after a neighbour raised the height of his land, now have the ongoing and seemingly insoluble problem of his water now flooding his land. And now I'm hearing the same issues from landowners adjacent to this subdivision site and others along the urban strip, with water flooding on both urban streets and non-urban properties. And I'm getting conflicting information. On one hand, staff advised at the Agenda Forum that the fault in the pipes between these basins that was causing flooding was due to incompetent installation and had been fixed. Yet the community tell me the pumps are still pumping water out of the basins to stop flooding into the adjacent land
Thank
and
you,
are likely to
Councillor
continue
Catalano.
doing so.
And that's your 3 minutes. I'll ask Councillor Bowman as the seconder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't intending to speak because I thought this one might have gone through. But, Madam Mayor, I know the area quite well because probably 40 years ago, unbeknownst to my mum, I would have been riding my bike there, and things have changed over the times, and they've changed quite a bit. It was an interesting deputation last week, and Councillor Howlett was the one that asked the question or made the point. Wasn't it interesting that we couldn't actually consider the other drainage basins, but then when they wanted to, they considered the other POS outside of the area? Madam Mayor, at that briefing, I asked the question and made the point, but phrased it as a question so I could get away with it. I thought when you create water on your property, you keep it on your property. And I would expect that would also be for developments as well. I agree things aren't right. I agree that there is problems. I agree that the pumps are still pumping. And I went out there first thing Thursday morning early before everyone woke up. And it's quite interesting to see what's going on there. I think the issue for me, and there is a whole lot of issues there as well, but they want to have a smaller but a lot deeper hole as opposed to a bigger, shallower basin that could be usable POS. That comes with a number of problems, and I don't think that should be at the expense of our community, but in particular future residents who will have to pay for it because we will be the ones that actually have to address it.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll ask anyone like to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I totally support Councillor Catalano's motion, as I cannot support the officer's recommendation. I'm very concerned. I spent a couple of hours there on Saturday looking. I'm very concerned that the drainage plan overall appears to be piecemeal between various developers. I don't believe that what I saw on Saturday is anywhere near satisfactory to ensure that homes are not flooded or that the agricultural businesses to the east will not lose money through loss of production. I don't want to put my name to this amendment without further consultation. It's definitely not a legacy I want to leave.
Thank you very much. Does anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Howlett.
Thank you, councillors. I'd like to add that this subject site has many, many mature trees on it that, if removed and replaced with hard surfaces such as concrete and brick, will only add to the significant flooding and collecting surface and rising groundwater that's being experienced in that local area. Councillors, I was out there this afternoon, and this site is currently an island surrounded by swales and compensation basins that are full of water, and it hasn't rained for 3 days. Removal of these trees will only add to the issue of collecting surface water and rising groundwater. And in fact, had this come to us after the draft policy LP 1.18 tree protection management comes before council in November, it's likely that many of the trees on this site would have been protected due to their 4 metre high canopy and 4 metre high height. So it's interesting this is before us now. We should be protecting our mature trees, increasing public open space, particularly in high density housing areas such as Dayton, and we should be working on solutions to this well-documented Dayton drainage issues and not potentially adding to it. Raising Citrus Avenue, I don't believe is going to be a real solution. It's kicking the can, or should I say the bucket of water, down the road.
Thank you, Councillor Howlett. I'll ask anyone like to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Miles.
Thank you. And I know we've had a few people talk, but I'll just be quick. You know, it is clear we are in a housing crisis, and it is important local government works with government and developers to ensure housing is built in appropriate locations. And the proposed amendment is also, you know, it's in an already developed area, so it's effectively infill, and on the whole, that's better than fuelling urban sprawl. However, as Councillor Bowman, Councillor Catalano, and Councillor Howlett have raised, there are some serious concerns regarding the loss of the public open space, mature trees, and the pressures on the already struggling local drainage network. And you know, as has been raised, Office Report does argue that the loss of public open space within the amendment is minimal. The overall loss of public space shouldn't be treated so lightly, especially in the climate we're in. We should be trying to retain as much as we can. Now, the outcome of this amendment would be an increase of just 19 additional lots. And yes, we must look for housing that we can build anywhere we can, but it also needs to be in appropriate locations and sufficiently considering the local situation that it would take place in. So I intend to vote for Councillor Catalano's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, my email inbox is full of complaints about block drains and floods at the moment. I think lots of other councillors are probably experiencing the same. It's my view that if we approve this, we'll have 50 years of complaints about block drains and floods in this area. And after 2 months of rain, the problem is very clear. Those of us who saw the diagram that's sent out showing the flow of water from drainage basin A, B, C and D, and especially those who've been on the site will see that the water, as it drains from drainage basin B to drainage basin C, has to go over the Dampier to Bunbury pipeline. Water in this area, I believe, has to flow towards the east. Its natural flow prior to the pipeline and any development would have been downwards towards the river, but unfortunately the gas pipeline is now in the way. Prior to all this asphalt, the trees absorb the water, so the flow through the sand around the pipeline was enough to enable the land to be drained, but that's not the case anymore. So as we're adding more asphalt, and this particular scheme amendment, as you can see on page 37, is removing public open space, which is in effect a large drainage swell, and increasing the amount of asphalt and reducing the possibility of retaining any water on the site, means that this is simply not going to work, because you can see right now it won't work. If you visit the site, as I did, you'll find that Citrus Avenue, the northern side of it, was under 2 or 3 feet of water. I guess that's about a metre of water in the old money. The issue here is not just in this location. All the way to the north along this pipeline, the same problem is going to occur. So we do need a broader drainage strategy for this area. A patchwork of structure plans and amendments to structure plans is not the way to go. We need to reject this, and we need to have a broader look at drainage in the area, otherwise we're going to have 50 years of complaints. And finally, as for this idea of raising Citrus Avenue, I don't believe that's feasible at all, because the south of Citrus Avenue is already built up, and I think we'd just end up with water flooding into people's houses if we tried that. So councillors, yeah, we can't vote against this. We'll have 50 years of complaints if we do. So I'm going to be voting against it. Well, I'll be voting for the motion, but against the scheme amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? I had Councillor Singh.
Yes, thank you. I just want to add on what we have facing from last more than 2 months. When was the rain and this season, a lot of rain this year, but not an issue with the Daytons, the issue all the way to Brabham as well. There still has a blockage and still water on the road. And we put inquiry again and again and by the residents as well. So I think we really need to reassess the drainage plan. And as a councillor, we are the first contact by the community, but I think the city need to rethink about it. They have to be responsible for all the response for all the inquiries, and it's hard for them to give a response and sorting these out quickly. This is not switch on, switch off, because if is whatever the approved plan and development going through Cherish Way around was Blundell Street, was currently alongside to east in the Dayton, they already has an issues. Some block is still going on, and the construction on the next door, all the rubbish going through the drainage. And I send inquiry all the times, and still going on. It's not going to be stopped. But rethink about for new development approved through these plans. What information I get that information. So we don't know even. I got an aerial plan today from Mr. Leon. So what I can say is maybe the Brabham Stage 3 coming back in the council in future time. So it's going to be more issues alongside. So we don't want to be send any development to delay or like that. We don't want, because the community need housing, community needs school. We understand, and we don't want to take that blame to, as we are not responsible persons or we are not so responsible councillors. So please, we request to the city and DWR to reassess this plan, and until the already existing issues not going to be resolved. I don't know when they're going to be resolved. So I'm fully supported on this motion as a ward councillor as well. So fully supported on to Councillor Kettle on the motion, and advice to the city and all the planning teams, please reconsider this one, because once they build anything, constructed everything, you all knows it is not easy job you can rectify any issue quickly. So thank you very much. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. I'll ask anyone would like to speak against the motion. Anyone would like to speak for the motion? Not Councillor Catalani, you're right to reply.
Yes. Look, we're going to get more than 50 years worth of complaints, and they're more than serious concerns. Until we know if the drainage infrastructure is fit for purpose, approving this amendment leaves the council and the city open to liability for ongoing damage to adjacent properties, just as the community have been warning us about. We should be cautious, for we are responsible to the ratepayers, and it will be they who will have to pay, and they are likely going to have to pay. Furthermore, the whole of Dayton has just over 10% public open space. This amendment seeks to reduce public open space in the subdivision by 75%, relying to make up the shortfall on the proximity to the Dayton open space, which predominantly caters for sports in the district, with 60% of its area playing fields not suitable for dog walking or for family picnics for the urban tree canopy, and with only 30% available for such things as dog walks, picnics and the urban tree canopy. There should be no reduction in public open space in Dayton at all. It's already a high-density suburb with very young families living in small houses with almost no or tiny backyards. Therefore, we should not support this amendment, and we should tell the Western Australian Planning Commission that it should not agree to it.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. I'll now put that to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Singh, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCullough, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zenino, Councillor Henderson, Deputy Mayor Johnson and Councillor Howlett, and those against myself. And that's carried. 10-1. Thank you. So councillors move to 14.3.2, which is the proposed amendment to DA 324/2024, private psychiatric hostel to extend the term of approval for a further 12 months. Proposed motion by Councillor Bowman, and I'll just mention that I also need a councillor to foreshadow the officer's recommendation if this alternate motion isn't passed. If you'd like to read out your alternate motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I move the Council resolves to extend the term of approval of DA 324/2024 until the 7th of May 2026. And the reason for the motion, the temporary approval was only for 12 months and they've been operating since the 8th of May 2025.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Is anyone against?
Question.
Question?
I wasn't aware that an extension was coming through, so hence it didn't ask at the agenda forum. It didn't get advertised. Have there been any complaints of the facility in the last 12 months?
Oh, I'll ask Mr Vanderlyn, please, if you have any further.
Madam Mayor, the operation, they went into operation, I think, on the 8th of May only this year. And since then, we have not received any complaints from neighbours or anyone that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Further question? No? Okay. I'll ask again. Is there anyone against? No? It's carried. Oh, sorry. Thank you. It was carried unanimously. And now we move to part 15. Motions of which previous notice has been given, and we had nil. So we move to part 16, and this is our confidential report. So I will just advise those watching online that we will need to go behind closed doors for this. We will return as soon as possible, and those in the gallery will need to also move into the room next door. Just one moment. I'll just wait for the gallery and staff to And thank you to those watching at home. We've come back out from behind closed doors after discussing a confidential item 16.1 and the recommendation that Council resolved to 1, endorse the CEO's performance review and the recommendations contained within this report in respect of the CEO's total remuneration package and proposed KPIs for 2025-2026, which was carried 8-3. And we move to part 17, notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting, if given during the meeting. The deadline for submissions will be 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 16th of September 2025. Brings us to part 18, which is the closure of tonight's meeting. And that concludes tonight's council meeting. Thank you for watching online, and I hereby close the meeting at 7:53 p.m. Good evening.